You know that gnawing feeling deep inside every time the deal slips through your fingers? Every time the startup that had promise suddenly vanishes into thin air? Every time you see yet another investment turn cold and you sit there wondering what the hell you missed? Managing partners aren't just the ones signing checks. They are the heartbeat, the weather radar, the secret weapon that determines whether the whole fund thrives or collapses in dust. If that role feels like a cage sometimes, if it feels like the weight of the world is crushing innovation and cutting off every chance before it can even breathe, then you're not alone. This is the raw, brutal truth. Most managing partners are stuck in a cycle of firefights and failures because they misunderstand what real influence looks like. Here's the cold, ugly fact staring every managing partner in the eyes. If you only focus on deals, numbers, and spreadsheets, you are already losing. If your system doesn't build power for founders and your partners, if it's broken in the connections that matter, you're just a spectator watching your capital evaporate. Because investment success isn't about spotting the next unicorn or backing the flashiest founder. It's about mastering what happens next, how you shape people, teams, markets, mindsets. Now listen closely, because this is where most partners crack. There's a fragile illusion floating around that managing partners are just money gatekeepers or deal closers. They aren't just managing money, they manage fate. The fate of founders, the fate of investments, the fate of markets in which those startups try to survive. It's maddening, because all the talent in the world won't help if the power dynamics and processes are rotting from the inside. The whole battle is won or lost in the invisible cracks of leadership before the first dollar moves. So what do the great managing partners do? They don't hand founders a map and say, figure it out. They don't just chase the shiny pitch decks or worship traction without digging into the core truth behind it. They become architects of chaos turned order. They build systems of accountability that don't suffocate creativity. They tear down walls while building bridges that speak in trust, not just contracts. They engineer an environment where founders feel fierce enough to push boundaries, but secure enough to know who's got their back when everything goes sideways. If you think you can do this by being absent or distant, think again. Managing partners who distance themselves from operational struggles and real founder pain are the ones bleeding cash in every quarter. You have to be obsession level engaged, tracking the heartbeat of every project, every pivot, every struggle. And when founders start doubting, they look for that anchor in their GP. If you're not that anchor, if your reaction is just focus on scaling, you kill the core. Real success happens when you confront fear in your founders head on. You get into their heads and eyes. You know their weaknesses better than they do. You light fires under their complacency, but hold them tight enough so they don't burn alive. This doesn't mean micromanage. It means wield influence like a surgeon's scalpel, precise, brutal when needed, but always making the whole body stronger. That means cutting through bullshit culture traps fast. No tolerance for the way things have always been. It means constructing feedback loops where hard truths are praised, not punished, so problems surface before they explode. It means balancing extreme pressure with extreme empathy. Understanding that pressure without care is just cruelty. If that sounds impossible, it's because most managing partners try to do it with outdated instincts, outdated incentives. Here's the horrifying part. They treat investments like trophies instead of battles. Sound familiar? Crunch the numbers, push founders for growth, and then ghost when real shati hits the fan. Nope. Success demands you bleed with your founders. Not just cash in when the exits come. Your personal reputation, your mental energy, your early mornings and late nights, everything must be aligned with lifting your startups through chaos, because that is the real currency. Now listen hard. What does that look like in action? You carve out ritual moments, daily or weekly, where brutal transparency reigns. This is not a safe space in the typical corporate comfort sense. It's a showdown arena where everyone is utterly honest about what's working and what's not. A place where ego is crushed daily, because egos kill startups faster than cash shortages. You force your partners and founders to face their brutal metrics every cycle, then pivot with swift, ruthless execution. No hesitation. No, let's sleep on it. You get momentum by demanding absolute clarity, razor-sharp focus, and punishing follow-through. Next, you build networks that go beyond your fund. You don't just invest money, you inject human capital, strategic connectors, mentors who don't sugarcoat, operators who've bled on the battlefield. This means you become a conductor of an ecosystem where founders tap into real power, not just empty introductions. If your network is shallow or transactional, your startups will starve for truth and toughness right when they need it most. Most GPs stash themselves in a bubble, chilling between board meetings and IPO dreams. The great managing partners live inside the noise, the uncertainty, the endless, messy human stories that make or break startups because the real work is done in the trenches. Be the GP who sweats the small stuff like a tiger stalking prey, every hiring decision, every product tweak, every marketing message, because these micro decisions are the veins pumping life through your investments. Afraid to challenge norms, afraid of ruffling feathers, afraid to truly lead. This fear is the hidden killer. Yet here's the greatest frustration. So many managing partners have the tools, but are terrified to break free of the old guard's rules. If you want to shape investment success, you have to be the one who shatters the illusion. The system is broken, yes, but it only breaks those who refuse to evolve fast enough. Stop playing by their playbook. Build your own. If you haven't internalized the role of managing partner as a relentless, hands-on leader who remakes reality for founders instead of managing spreadsheets, you are already behind. You must become ruthless dealers in truth, architects of culture, relentless coaches demanding more from yourself and your investments than anyone else dares to ask. Until you own that role completely, your track record will be full of what could have been. Finally, and maybe most importantly, remember this. Managing partners are the gatekeepers of possibility. The ones who refuse the easy path, who build intense, fiery connections between founders and capital and markets, those are the ones who actually change the game. Because when all else settles, money flows not to algorithms or fancy pitches, but to leaders who can weather storms, forge breakthroughs, and ignite greatness in others. Your job is to be that leader. Not just for today, but for every damn moment when the world says it's impossible. So gear up and attack your role with hell-bent will. Insist on transparency, demand accountability, build networks that breathe life, not just transactions. Live inside the mess, the fear, the chaos, and emerge every time tougher, sharper, hungrier. Your founders are counting on that fire. You owe it to them and to yourself to bring every ounce of power you have to the fight. Because managing partners don't just handle investments, they shape the future. And that future belongs only to those who dare to dominate every second of it.